Today, I'm exploring the impact of living with something called Rejection Sensitive Dysphoria. It's common in people with ADHD, autism, and people who have been through trauma. I also want to share with you a few coping mechanisms that I've recently started to use to help me live with rather than fight against RSD. Navigating the world as a perfectionist creative with ADHD and RSD isn't exactly easy. And when you post something that falls flat, like a video with low engagement, RSD just loves to take over. It presents itself as proof that nobody cares, that you've messed up or said the wrong thing. And because you're here, I imagine that sounds like something you experience too. You know that feeling? Every instinct is telling you to delete it and just pretend like it never happened. And that happened with me with my latest episode of Bearing My Soul on the internet, with a video, ironically, that's all about failure. I really thought it was going to be a banger, but nope. 10, 12 days after uploading it, I think it's got around 50 views, so that didn't work out. And it stings for sure, but I haven't spiraled and I haven't deleted it. Because lately, instead of letting RSD define me, I've really started to understand how I can live alongside it. To help you understand where I'm coming from, I think I just need to rewind a little bit. Because in some parts of my life, I actually have learned how to handle rejection properly. As a designer, I've basically been trained to take critique. On a daily basis, my work gets questioned, gets pulled apart and reshaped. And I know it's not personal because it's just part of the job. That wasn't always the case though, as early on in my career, I really struggled. I was terrified of being on calls with clients just in case I messed something up. I can remember countless times where I stumbled during presentations or simply just didn't know the answer to a question from a client, standing there like a deer in the headlights, just waiting to be run over. I can still vividly remember a meeting where an account manager ripped me apart in front of my entire team for something, according to her, that I hadn't done right, when actually it was mainly just a miscommunication. Of course, back then, I just didn't correct her. I just sat there. And nearly 10 years on, I can still feel everyone's eyes on me, wanting the ground to just swallow me up so I could just jump right in. I assumed that kind of rejection meant that I'd failed, and that failure meant I didn't belong. And at the time, I had no idea that it was linked to a neurological disorder. I just thought I needed to toughen up. And over time I did, and I got better at separating the work from my worth. And these days, feedback doesn't really bother me too much. And where it's still tough is being on camera, presenting not just the ideas, but me. That's actually why I started this channel, to practice showing up, to be visible. Because when you're sharing you, your face, your story, and your voice, silence can feel like rejection. And the reality of living with RSD is that that silence is filled by screaming voices in your head. It doesn't just say, oh, that didn't quite land. It tells you in no uncertain terms that you're a failure, that you've embarrassed yourself, you've said too much, they didn't like it, and they don't like you. And again, it serves up the proof that you're not good enough, when you know deep down somewhere that that's not the case. For a long time, I believed what this inner voice had to say. I let it dictate what I shared, when I spoke, or even just if I bothered at all. But slowly things have started to shift, and I put so much of that down to starting this channel. And it's also because of conversations that I've had with new people and friends that I've reconnected with. And I'm learning I do not have to believe that voice, because it's not the truth. It's simply a trigger. And whilst that voice can still be loud and very convincing at times, I found a few things to help ignore it and help me come back to myself. The first one is simple. Change the environment. When the noise gets too loud, I try and change something around me. I'll make a brew. If I'm working, I'll switch from sitting to standing. I can even change the colour of the lights on my desk or the light behind me, just to change the mood. I love music, so I'll put on a playlist. And for a bit of an insight into the music I like, it's been a mix of Architects, Sleep Token, Poppy, Error, and my friend's band, North of Ruins. You should check them out. They're all heavy, deep, and catchy. Just something for my brain to sink its teeth into. This first one's not really about fixing anything. It's more about giving me the space to take a breath. The second one is a little bit more tricky. It's don't delete. If something underperforms, my instinct immediately is to erase it and just pretend it never happened. But I've made a rule. If it comes from a place of honesty, it stays. because engagement and perfection at this stage really don't matter. Posting honestly does. The last one, and potentially the most difficult, is to reframe negatives into positives. It's tempting to track progress by numbers. So you look at growth, reach, views, likes, comments, but I've realized it's how I interpret them that makes all the difference. A post with no engagement is a chance for me to remember why I shared it in the first place. Still proof that I had the nerve to show up. It's not about pretending those things don't affect me, but it's choosing to not let them define me. I'm still here, I'm still speaking, and sometimes that's more than enough. So however I get out of a spiral, a mini one or a big one, my mind usually comes back to this, to creating things. Because even after some little bumps in the road, I still want to keep going. At the start of Unquiet People, my initial idea was just to post static posts and carousels on Instagram, just to get my thoughts out there. But right now, this space feels so much more honest. And while the reach is significantly lower, it helps me process so much more. The way I look at YouTube is like it's a creative cold shower. It's shocking at first and uncomfortable, but after a while you feel clearer, sharper, and much more awake. And I want more of that, even if it means standing in the cold. And I'm not still posting because I've cracked it, because I haven't, but I am here. And I'm not deleting myself anymore. And that, honestly, is the most progress I think I've ever made. If you've got this far, firstly, thank you for sticking with me. But there's more here for you if you're interested. I recommend the video about failure, which led directly to this one, and also the video about bullying, which unpacked a lot of my childhood trauma. And before you go, I would genuinely love to know, if you're a YouTuber, how do you deal with moments of silence or low engagement? Or if you're someone who also has RSD, what do you do when you spot yourself spiraling? However you interact, whether that's a like, comment, or sharing it somewhere, it means a lot. So let's catch up soon.